Hey, my lovely people. Welcome back to A Black Cat's Voice. I'm here with a brand new episode for you guys. And today I want to talk about adverse advice. So, one of the rules that I use just in general in my life is that I don't take advice from people I don't want to be like. So, you got to stop taking advice from people you don't want to be like. And let me elaborate on, my thoughts on this. So, when it comes to when it comes to advice, not everybody wants to help you. You come across people, some people actually do want to help you, but not as much as you think. Some people really want to, I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. Some people want to see you doing good, but never better than them. And that's some real shit. Some people want to see you doing good. It's not that they want to see you doing bad, but once you start doing better than them, it's a problem. And I've just really seen a lot of examples of that in my own life. Perfect example. Back, when I was in a toxic relationship, there were so many people in my life who were encouraging me to stay, who were telling me to work it out. And they always had what they called the best advice on how to keep my man. And it wasn't until I got out of the situation that I realized that these people were never even in healthy relationships themselves. Just because y'all been together 10, 20, 30 years, it doesn't mean it's a healthy relationship. And it's not always a good situation. Sometimes people just stay because of that comfortability. So finally, I got to the point where I just stopped taking their advice. And ever since that point, I've been in a much better situation. You really can't take everybody's advice because sometimes people do love you and they don't mean no harm, but they don't really know what they're talking about. And that's just real. When it comes to getting advice from anybody, I always try to figure out why they're giving this advice. I want to question, who is this person? Do they even play an important enough role in my life that I should be taking their advice in the first place? I'm way more likely, if one of my aunties was like, oh, niece, get a jacket, it's gonna rain today. 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna grab a jacket, right? But if my Uber driver's like, oh, Kat, make sure you get a jacket, it's gonna rain today, I'm probably gonna check the weather before I get out the car because it's I don't really know you like that to be taking advice from you. So yeah, that's cool. I appreciate it, but let me fact check. Let me make sure you know what you're talking about. And you really just gotta question people. Why are they even giving you this advice? Did you ask? Are you okay with unsolicited advice? Because sometimes I truly am, because even though I didn't ask, sometimes it's right on point. But sometimes I really didn't ask. So you giving your opinion is not really helpful to me. Just sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes. And it's I don't ever want to be rude to people. I'm not encouraging people to be rude to people. But when it comes to advice, you really got to question the character of the person that's giving you tips. Is this a person you should be taking hints from? Is this a person that knows what they're talking about? For example, we get a lot of new people at my job, every job gets new people at some point, if they stay in business usually. And it's funny because certain people at my job I hardly see because of the department I work in. And when I see new people on the job, they automatically think I'm new just because they haven't seen me before. And I know I look fairly young. And almost always these people will just start giving me advice about my job and, what to worry about and how to do this or that. And I just kind of laugh it off and flatter them. But, I don't take it in because I'm not going to let someone who's on their second day tell me how to do a job I've been doing for the past 4 years. You know what I mean? Like, you really got to always take a step back and think before just taking anybody's advice, because sometimes people really don't mean no harm, but you haven't had enough experience to be giving helpful information on this topic. And sometimes that's just, like with the new hires at my job, that's really what it is. They really think they're being helpful, but, you don't even realize who I am to be giving me advice. So moving on, you got to always remember that good advice really can come from anybody. Now, I'm not saying don't take advice from people. I'm not saying don't listen to nobody, because good advice really can come from anybody. But you have to be sure that it's actually good advice. Like, perfect example, when I used to take the bus a lot, I used to encounter a decent amount of homeless people. And I remember one time seeing a homeless woman who was on drugs, clearly on drugs, couldn't sit still, slurring her sentences and all these different things. And at the bus stop, she actually looked at me and she told me, she said, "Baby girl, make sure you stay in school and make sure you take care of yourself. Don't you ever end up like me." And even though this woman was on drugs, probably didn't make the best life decisions, she gave me some real advice. I really did need to stay in school. I really did need to take care of myself. And hell no, I'm not trying to end up like that. So you damn right, lady, I don't want to be like you. So thank you for telling me that. Thank you for reminding me, hey, you taking this bus to school because you need to stay in school because you don't want to end up like that. Sometimes it's really right message, wrong messenger. Like, sometimes it really can be just what you need to hear. It just might not be who exactly you expected to hear it from. But in other examples, it's just all wrong. Sometimes people who have no business giving nobody any advice want to give everybody advice. I see it on social media all the time. You have people who have clearly never studied mental illness telling people how to deal with anxiety. Oh, just think positive and it'll go away. Or, oh, if you just stop thinking about negative things, it'll cure your anxiety. And that's not how it works, because anybody who has studied mental illness knows when it comes to anxiety and any form of mental illness, it's literally a chemical imbalance. And there are so many different things that a person has to do to be able to function the way they need to function in their life due to that mental illness. So you can't just, let me just think positive and that's the quick fix. Like, I really hate when people give advice like that, because you clearly don't know what you're talking about. If just don't think about it anymore was the solution, don't you think people would just do that? If it was literally that easy, it's not that easy. And that's why sometimes when you hear people try to tell you what you need to do or what you need to be doing, you need to let it go in one ear and out the other, because you don't need to be listening to everybody. I'm just saying, you really got to use discernment throughout your life. You really do, because you really just got to stop taking advice from people you don't want to be like. If you're not trying to be in that situation, if you're not trying to be like that person, why are you always taking their advice? That's the question you need to be asking yourself. So, I'm just saying, you guys, be mindful, use discernment, and always question everything. Always question everything and everybody before just listening to what people tell you to do. I'm serious, you guys. But as always, thank you for listening. Stay safe and take care of yourselves, you guys. Seriously.